This is Kirk Davis, Executive Director of Camps. I'm here today with Marco and James from Fresh Consulting. And I have to tell you, this has been very exciting getting ready for this interview. And I'm excited to share it with the camps and the broader manufacturing community. Getting to know both of you and the kind of things you talk about, I think, should be on every manufacturing CEO's mind. But I think it'd be helpful, first of all, to kind of get a little bit of your background. And uh, Marco or James, if you want to start off and tell us a little bit about you and where you came from, how you got here.
Marco, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, I've spent 20 plus years in the Seattle area working at various engineering and high volume manufacturing of companies. I've worked with some of the big boys in the area. I've kind of also worked, one of the interesting things is, full cycle from early product development, from concepting, prototyping and developing new technologies, all the way through high volume manufacturing in terms of delivering millions and tens of millions of units per year. So I've had a lot of experience throughout the entire life cycle of products, and I think I have a unique perspective in how products go from ideation through the development process and into reality. And one of the things that we do really well here at Fresh is work on new projects and new products where people come to us with ideas and concepts of things that haven't been developed and built before, and we help bring new technologies into the world. And so a lot of my focus in what I'm doing at Fresh is continuing that with our partners and clients, as well as trying to give us a particular focus in the automation and robotics space as well, where we're trying to use more modern manufacturing techniques and helping partners develop the ROIs to allow them and enable them to build the business cases for automating into the future.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. James?
Yeah, James Dietrich, Robotics Solutions Director at Fresh. I'm a transplant from the Boston area. I've been in robotics now for just about a little over 8 years. I was working with, mostly different types of robotic startups over the last several years, helping them to bring their products to market, and helping with some of that go-to-market strategy. Really keen on actually sort of the education and sort of customer discovery around the value of how robots can be adopted in any number of settings. I've helped deploy robots across retail, hospitality, healthcare, oil and gas, nuclear services, manufacturing. And so, quite a bit that I've seen over the years. But yeah, I was, privileged to be able to fall into robotics as a non-engineer myself. I'm a marketing and finance and psychology guy by education. But was really turned on by what the robotics and automation community offered, from just a really friendly, collaborative space. Really inspired about how it's changing, and sort of creating opportunities across all numbers of industries. And so it was really exciting to be able to join Fresh. I've never been on a consulting side before, but having had dozens of conversations with people over the years, so few robotic solutions off the shelf are really able to deliver on all of what a lot of people are needing.
Yeah.
And so being able to be on the consulting side of robotics and being able to pick and choose and leverage so many different tools, software, hardware platforms that are available, it's a lot more fun now to be able to engage in some of these really unique client projects and really help them get from A to B in the way they need to, and that works best for them. So yeah.
So it's safe to say you've both seen some things. So.
Been around the world, seen some things, built some things. It's been a fun journey, and we're continuing to do a lot of really fun and new things at Fresh as well.
Yeah. And I'll just mention that Camps does a military to manufacturing workshop where we introduce manufacturing a lot of times for the first time to military members who are transitioning out of the military. They comment that I would have never thought of manufacturing. They said we would have never considered that with our skill set and background, but it looks so exciting. And today's manufacturing is not like your grandfather's manufacturing.
Right.
we have some unique things, and we are taking advantage of the military to manufacturing project. We have, I think, some of your members on our team, and they're getting to participate in some of the latest and greatest types of projects we're doing in the space.
No,
Yeah.
we really appreciate your guys' participation with the M2M and the internships, and it's only getting better. I thought I would share my screen if that's okay, and we have a little bit of a slideshow here, just to help tell the story a little bit. You know, I think the story of Fresh is very exciting, but you guys are growing. If I remember right, you guys have won quite a few awards.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, and
Marco and I are definitely, you know, privileged sort of new employees at Fresh over the last year, but really, you know, the vision and credit is, you know, due to our fantastic team that's been there for a long time. Our CEO Jeff Dance and, you know, his partner Steve Hewlett, they got this company started about 13, almost 14 years ago now. You know, they really did see a different vision for, you know, how consulting, you know, can be delivered. You know, they had a passion for innovation. They've got a passion for, you know, how people experience technology and the usability of that technology and the creativity around it. And that just, you know, that doesn't land just in hardware or software. I mean, that really covers the whole spectrum. And so our foundational roots as a consulting services company is really rooted in, you know, experience design. So user experience, user interface work. We've been doing a lot of custom software development for web and mobile apps, you know, data. And then over, you know, the years, we've continued to watch trends as they continue to grow. And so, you know, our CEO saw, you know, the future of robotics and automation playing a huge role in how people continue to adopt and innovate with technology. And so a couple of years ago, we acquired a hardware R&D company here locally. It was a company called SciTech R&D. And that brought with it a huge bench of mechanical, electrical, systems engineers, and a whole bunch of others who, you know, had experience in aerospace and med device and a whole bunch of other, you know, industries brought together for some really fun, you know, complex hardware engineering work. And so this group is, you know, largely maintained, you know, at Fresh to this day. We've continued to grow. I think we've got a little over 60 now dedicated people just in our hardware and engineering group. Over 300 people, you know, at Fresh, you know, across all of our divisions. We've acquired, you know, some really great companies down in the Oregon area, and we've just opened a new office in Austin, Texas. So our groups continue to expand pretty aggressively. And you know, in comment to the military to manufacturing program on Veterans Day, you know, thank you and you know, congratulations for everyone who's, you know, served and served safely. But yeah, we've got, you know, a little over 30 veterans on our staff internally. And so yeah, we pride ourselves in being able to help, you know, people transition from their full-time service into the industrial space.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the capabilities of Fresh, and of course, this slide is a kind of a bigger overview of everything Fresh does, and I think we're going to focus a little bit more on the hardware side.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily need to go through all the bullet points here, but as you can see, you know, we specialize in hardware engineering, experience design, software development, and we're starting to get into a bit more of the traditional strategy and consulting side of that. But I think, you know, what really sets us apart as a unique entity is that, you know, end to end, we're able to combine so many of these different discipline areas into, you know, really tangible outputs for our client engagements. We don't leave them with just reports and fancy statements on things they should do. You know, our clients leave us with, you know, very tangible outputs, you know, physical hardware in many instances from our engagements. And so that's where we really pride ourselves on is building things together.
Yeah, there's a bit of differentiation there as well, just because we're so we have a lot of breadth. Where if we want to focus on hardware projects, we can focus on hardware projects, but we can start with the strategy and the ideation and the user research and the industrial design, and we can go all the way full circle, full service through the you know, app development, the enterprise software side of things. bringing and connecting devices and desktop clients to the cloud through apps, and there's just a ton of capability that having this larger organization behind us to help power and bring a lot of value to the solutions we can develop in the hardware space.
Yeah, I was just showing the slides of customers you've worked with and awards you guys have won, and so I mean this is really cool. I think for people to get to see who you really are and the level that you work at, and of course, we're going to bring it down to to some maybe something that even small and medium-sized manufacturers can understand and appreciate and take advantage of. We decided to talk just a little bit about, I think the topics they see on this slide right here are terms that they're very familiar with, that they work with in their own shops.
Yeah, in the hardware space, you can't think of us as a traditional product development. I like to think of us in that way, which is we are capable of addressing and tackling any type of unique challenge, whether it's help us think about how to solve a particular step in an assembly process, help us develop a tool to make us more efficient, help us design a system that is complex and integrated and can drive ROI into automated test and assembly as well. There's a lot we can do, because we have the fundamentals and the basics in place. And there are a number of places where we also specialize as well. We're extremely strong in the robotics and autonomous vehicle space.
Yeah.
That in itself is a really important and growing area of our team, where we have a lot of dedicated resources. We're also really strong in test and automated test equipment and developing that for a lot of our clients in the area. As well as I have a continued focus on building out automated assembly equipment, leveraging and expanding just off that test. But we have consumer clients that want to develop new products and bring those to the market as well. And so just having a lot of those capabilities in place to be able to do the mechanical engineering, the circuit board design, the software, the firmware, and connect it all is something that we do, and we're able to do the small project, we're able to do the large projects. It's a great thing about us.
You bet. In fact, I've talked to some camps members who work with you, partner with you, and they can't say enough good about working with you. So I think I want to open that up to more camps members and say, hey, look, this is a good.
Well, for sure. This works both ways. We definitely have I myself have a long relationship in the area with working with a lot of the local suppliers, and that's something that we want to do more of as well, and look for those opportunities. So when we're talking to you, we're talking to the whole CAMS community, and it's not just about what we can provide to you. We're always looking for sources and good partners ourselves, because it takes a community, and it's one of the things that I appreciate being a part of camps and having this talk, to get the word out and let us know not just who we are, but who you are, and how we can all work together and kind of build and continue to build the manufacturing community in the Puget Sound area.
Now, and I appreciate that so much. I think that was a nice plug for, and that term that it takes a community is really a true story, and that's becoming even more true, I think, in light of global competition, in light of pandemics and reshoring efforts that are happening right now with manufacturing. So anyway, there's a lot of reasons why what you said is very true and applicable. So walk me through now. I'm aware that relatively few manufacturers have really adopted robotics at this point. In 2020, at the end of 2020 here, that it's a relatively small percentage. And so I know that the manufacturing community has got to think through some things here. From your experience, what do the manufacturers have to think through in order to get to that place where they can say, this makes sense, I should be doing this, it's going to help me be more competitive?
Sure. Yeah, there's a number of factors there. The one that I like to take a step back and not go straight to the obvious one, which is cost. But you really need to start with the mindset of to survive, to be competitive these days. whether you're locally or globally, the world, like people say, the world's pretty flat. It's a pretty small place, and whether there are artificial boundaries or geographical boundaries or geopolitical issues causing separations, we need to think about how to be the most everyone needs to think about how to be the most competitive, because again, the world is generally pretty small these days. Yeah. So we have to get to that commitment point and that thought process of we can't do things the old ways or continue to do it. We always have to be improving. Other folks are out there improving, and that it really starts with that commitment. And so when we that's the thing I look for when we're looking for potential partners, is that, hey, we have a common vision of where we're trying to go. You don't have to go for the home run, right out the door. And I don't necessarily advocate for that either. It's a learning process, and sometimes you have to iterate, and you learn what works and you learn what doesn't. And starting small is a really good way to start. It minimizes risk, it minimizes cost, investment. But when we do get into cost and investment, we also start with building a really strong ROI and using that as the justification for what we're doing. And so, we all need to be able to be convinced that whatever we propose or whatever solution we're trying to bring to fruition is going to serve the end purpose and provide that efficiency, or there's going to be it may not be cost, but there's going to be a metric there that we're going to measure, and it's going to move the needle for your business. And without that, there's really not a good reason or a strong reason to start and engage.
That's so good. Yeah, thank you.
I think just to comment more broadly on how you open that. Yeah, I mean, there's, I think, still a lot of fears surrounding introducing robotics and automation into the workplace. I think if automation were to replace humans as quickly as has been rumored, the American economy would have already seen a really big seismic change. And we are, but it's slow. And we would expect to see unemployment increasing as workers are rapidly displaced. But advanced economies like the U.S., Japan, Germany, South Korea, and others are still operating at nearly full employment. Obviously, pre-COVID, considering. But instead, automation is really something that will steadily force labor upstream. With human work becoming a bit more specialized. The future of manufacturing won't be working, manufacturers won't be working with the products themselves. They're going to be designing robots, writing sophisticated programs, directing machine learning algorithms, coordinating the installation of the advanced systems. And human input will always be required. And this is going to hold true, even at the peak, age of automation and adoption. So, I'm very hopeful of this future. I see a lot of ways where, again, humans and machines are going to work collaboratively. I love seeing the cost of a lot of these systems and hardware, continually come down. It is creating, competitive parity where we can onshore and reshore, so many of these manufacturing initiatives. So to me, it's a really promising outlook on what's to come.
And I've seen not just the people, the explanation of the case study saying robots or automation aren't just going to one for one replace people. I've seen this now, pre-COVID, post-COVID, in a lot of different scenarios. It's hard to attract talent in manufacturing. Right. And people, all these companies that want to grow, and there's a lot of companies doing really great things. One of their biggest struggles is talent and people, and they look to automation as a way to make them more efficient, because they said, I want to keep my good people, and I want to give them new opportunities. And I've seen exactly that happening in a number of places in this area very much. These companies are operating with that growth mindset, world-class operational efficiency, and are not just trying to replace people. They're trying to, also protect their people. And, right. and we also say, the great jobs for robots and automation are the dull, dirty, and dangerous, and
Yeah.
they're protecting their people so that they can keep them, attract more, and grow their business. And we absolutely see that is the fact of what's happening with a lot of these people that are being really successful at deploying automation in the area.
And I think just to add to that, I mean, the debate over automation often overlooks as an issue that, should be most troubling for manufacturers is, filling those, sort of qualified labor gaps on the roles that automation can't accomplish. So there's a huge opportunity for reskilling into, more high value roles, again, that automation and robotics just can't yet fulfill on. And again, I don't see those going away. So there's nothing but opportunity to, maintain, harmony and protect your existing workforce while still bringing in this technology that can amplify everything.
I think sometimes I hear that workers, when they see robotics coming in, that could be a concern for them. And so culturally, it can be a bit of a shock, I think. Have you,
Sure.
have you worked much with, seen that effect?
I've definitely heard it, and there are always usually rumblings, but we usually you try to nip that one right in the bud in the beginning, and that also again helps with the leadership in the organization being very transparent in what they're doing. I really haven't experienced any of those. I understand the concern, but I haven't seen that firsthand. I've heard situations where, people go through those. It's very rational to think that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've worked with some, some forward-thinking leaders, and they've been able to manage that process just through, being communicative and transparent. And the people understand that these are providing new and better opportunities for them ultimately.
Yeah, there you go. I really like that. Now, manufacturing went through quite a process many years ago to really adopt and get comfortable with lean. And lean's not easy. It takes continual, reinforcement training, and it's something that we have to work on. Robotics, I guess you could say that in terms of getting a job done, working shifts, robotics has some real advantages, I think, in this lean journey that manufacturers are on.
Yeah, I think it really helps enforce building that muscle, because now all of a sudden you have different constraints, right? You don't have the robot. You basically need to, let's talk about a robot, but you basically got to feed it material and keep it busy to be able to hit those ROIs. I mean, you don't have to have it running every second of the day 24/7, but that's how the more you can do that, the more you optimize it. And so it makes you then all of a sudden really focus on what's happening upstream and what's happening downstream, and how do you really now optimize your whole process. So again, it helps you bring that discipline, into your workspace to be able to capitalize on that investment.
And like all good things in life, it's all about balance. There is such a thing as tooling. I won't go into too much detail on it, but, Tesla is a prime example of somebody who, for instance, overinvested in too much automation and had too few humans involved in the loop. And they're starting to see the error in that thinking. So I think, again, something that, Marco and our teams do really well is really helping people think through what is the right amount of automation. How do we right size, this opportunity for you, and bringing just, the right amount of technology and the right combinations of technology to meet those needs. So, you don't go from 0 to 100 overnight and, find all of these challenges and problems have, been created as a result.
Yeah.
Let's walk, let's crawl, let's walk, let's run, and let's take that incremental step. And I think, again, all of the continued advancements in all of this technology is just making it easier to train on, service, support, maintain, reprogram. And a lot of this stuff is not too difficult to learn. There really is a lot of opportunity there.
You bring up a really great point, James, and that is how would a manufacturer kind of stay on top of some of the changes and like you said, some of this is becoming easier, it's becoming less expensive, but if you don't know, chances are you won't take advantage of it. I don't know. I'm sure it's a job for you to keep on top of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. I think I could probably speak for Marco and myself where, a lot of our nightly, reading before we go to sleep is just industry trade journals and things that kind of help us keep abreast on what the latest and greatest is. I think to your point, there's just too much happening at too fast a pace for us to always have our finger on the pulse of all of it. But, I think as I look to, our broader involvement with camps and, the Pacific Northwest in general, I'd love us to become a resource for, that kind of ongoing learning and imparting of knowledge that we're gaining through all of our different client projects, across the country. And so, I'd love to see us step up as somebody who can really help with that kind of ongoing education and help people, start from the ground up and build up their confidence and knowledge in what might be best fit for them.
Yeah, we love to take the opportunity just to talk to people and educate. The whole world of automation, if you look at anything on the largest scale, it can be intimidating. And it doesn't have to be. I like to take the step back and just start with the fundamentals. If we're going to talk about a project or, let's not worry about the robot arm and the big flashy, whatever the thing is. There's just so much out there. And they're tools, right? And so we need to understand the fundamental problem, what we're trying to accomplish, and then pick the right tools to go solve that problem. And whether it's a big flashy robot or a piece of custom equipment or a really simple fixture on a desktop, or a benchtop, let's get through there first and kind of step through this. It doesn't have to be intimidating, and that's definitely part of our job. And one of the fun things is just to look at different opportunities and try to conceive all the different ways you can reach those objectives.
Yeah, and just to support that, I mean, automation and improvements of this scale, it doesn't have to be a single piece of hardware. It doesn't have to be a robot. I mean, really, just modernizing legacy data and software systems can be a massive improvement.
Yeah, there you go.
And a huge boost for a lot of people. And then just starting from that foundational point can have ripple effects in so many other areas of the the production and manufacturing facility where there's just nothing but opportunity. So,
well, and you actually, there's a lot of questions in my mind, but I was reading a McKinsey, quarterly article on lean, but they pointed out that the manual type of lean that we typically do today, you could see about a 2% cost-cutting improvement, with traditional lean methods. But when they applied the digital methods to their and this could be the Industry 4.0 or data-driven type information that's in addition to robotics. They said they were seeing sometimes double or triple the cost savings,
right,
compared to doing everything manually, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of what you were speaking to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's just the visibility and the power of data and the tools that are available these days that are just simple and accessible for a lot of us. There's just there's so many opportunities, whether it's digital platforms for getting 3D printed parts made and things that just didn't exist or weren't as accessible 5 years ago, to all these different types of digital platforms that are cloud-based and easy to integrate and onboard. It's completely different than what putting an MES system in or updating your ERP used to be, which are just things that give me nightmares.
Oh yeah, my goodness, that's a tough job. Now, I've heard it said that type of technology and the things that the big players are doing today, small to medium-sized manufacturers will probably see in 3 to 5 years. And I thought that was an interesting rule of thumb, that as technology becomes more accessible, cheaper, as lessons are learned, and we say, oh, they tried it and it worked, maybe there's an adaptability, but it seems like there's kind of a lag time between the people who are willing to kind of jump in at the very beginning of a technology and then when it becomes more broadly acceptable. And I just wonder if you've seen some of that.
I see it. I understand it in two ways, where the big companies have the the ability or the longer time horizon to justify the cost and then recover the ROI. And so I think a lot of the traditional automation and robotics industries are looking at or have been accessible traditionally to them, but to those larger companies. But then you see now, whether it's venture funded or it's trends or new trends, but that those technologies come down in cost, and then they're accessible to a wider range of people, and then there's new business models empowering it. So then it becomes a bit of a flywheel, and so you definitely see that, and whether it's market trends, geopolitical trends, financial trends, driving it. From a macro side, I agree. And there's definitely a lot of proof with the types of the accessibility of robots and automation in the workplace, and why we're talking about it. And if you just look at I don't know, I look at my email and how many people are emailing me on a weekly basis about come see our robot this or our seminar on using that. And so all of these pieces are becoming more and more and widely available and accelerating into
well,
the
that's why I think it'd be so worthwhile to have a conversation with you. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation today, because I think manufacturers sometimes need to know where they can go to have these conversations about, and I'm thinking that a manufacturer who hasn't really done much automation or robotics at this point, maybe they have very low or no capabilities when it comes to this. But if they can get their toe in the water and get something started, a project, and typically I would think they'd have to think of a bottleneck or a constrained area. Otherwise, it's not going to really have the ROI, right?
It can be that, but it's really like, let's just solve a problem. What's your problem? Let's talk about what your problem is, and that's where we like to start with the conversation, and then we can go. Do we have the solution for you? Is it automation? How would we approach it? But to make it, I think I like to start really high level, because if it's hey, I understand your problem, but that's not the right fit for us. We'll find you the right people to go work with just to start with, and that's just doing the right thing by the relationships and the people in our community.
Yeah. And I think that's, what makes us really powerful as an integrator, Marco, to that point is, we've got such eyes and sort of hands on so many different of the, best in class players across so many different, facets of the robotics and automation landscape, that we really can just cherry pick, who to bring in and who's going to be best for, this really unique need. And I think that's what it always comes down to, is your environment, your people, your processes, your end product is always going to be unique, especially for, a lot of the size of the companies that are members of camps. And I think just to come back on your comment, earlier, it's been great over the last several decades to see, big automotive, pharmaceuticals, and everyone else, really showing the world that, hey, robots can be a really powerful tool. They're consistent, they're reliable, they're dependable, and they're not going to break the bank. But, there's been this progressive sort of democratization, happening across that. And I think Marco hinted to it, there's a lot of really new, business models, coming out of, different types of robotics and automation startups where, your burden as a manufacturer isn't, hey, I have to now pay for all of this hardware up front. You're now instead paying for, the output of that hardware. How many things did this robot pick and place and package, or, again, what is the, net gain of the output there, and what is the value of that? And so again, there's this really exciting democratization of all of this technology that's making it more accessible, making it so you don't have to have enormous capital budgets to be able to spend to get in the game, to get your toe in the water, as you put it. And that's really encouraging.
Well, I think that manufacturers should really engage in a what if scenario in their, with their executive team or with you, but they should be thinking what if, and thinking through, what if we did this, what if we did that, what if this problem were solved with automation or robotics, and what might that look like? And I really like, James, how you talked about the value of the output, right? Because a lot of times that's where you find your ROI. is in the value of the output. So I think I have a feeling that based on this conversation, we're going to be doing more things for the camps community in regards to robotics. And I think this recorded conversation is going to be something we can look back on and say there's a really good reason to work together as a community. There are resources like Marco and James here with Fresh Consulting that can help us, what if in some scenarios, and say, and if we feel like it's out of reach, I mean, camps, I know the camps community would like to help find a way to make some of these things in reach, and but I'd like to catch your vision for the future of manufacturing. Say, we focus on Washington State or the Northwest, but as manufacturers adopt robotics and automation, what do you see happening to us here locally if we get on board faster, say, than our competition?
Marco, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I have some thoughts there for sure. That you said vision, it's been a passion of mine to be able to, help work and build the community locally. I've been a part of a couple, federal symposiums once focused on the Northwest. And when you kind of zoom out and you think about the corridor between, Portland, Boise, Spokane, Seattle area, we are really isolated actually from the rest of the country. We're 1,000 miles or more from any other city. And so that's what I think about our local community, and there's a lot of things we need to do. There's just a lot of thinking, honestly, that I've seen at a lot of different levels that needs to happen. And so, camps is one step that I take. I work a little bit also with the University of Washington, and there's some initiatives happening out of that are recognizing and doing the same thing with trying to build a community around automation. And there's work that James has been doing that we like to do as well. And so, what you mentioned, Kirk, is to me is a really big topic, and I don't know all the answers, but starting small, starting local is kind of my I want to see us be more competitive locally, and doing anything we can, and just getting out there and starting. And I don't have all the answers, but getting together with these organizations and trying to figure out, how do we build businesses that last and can serve and be strong within this Northwest community is something that I'm just, I want to be a part of.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate that.
I think just to build off that, I had a privilege when I was just getting started in robotics back in Massachusetts to, work with some of the early founders of the Mass Robotics, nonprofit. I'm close friends with the people from the Silicon Valley Robotics Organization. Before we started this, formal interview here, we were talking about, the fact that the Northwest doesn't have adequate representation in this space. And so, similar to Marco, I've got kind of a grand vision for, a Northwest Robotics Alliance, something that, can tie in very, effectively with groups like Impact Washington and camps and so many others, that start to, create an ecosystem where you can nurture, incubate, grow any number of different players who want to compete in this space. And I think the members, of camps stand to benefit the most out of all of it. They represent sites that can be early adopters of this technology. They can weigh in and influence a lot of the direction, that some of these new startups might want to take just based on their experience. I mean, again, this 400-mile corridor between, Eugene and Vancouver, these are kind of old numbers, but, the region accounts for more than 250 billion in annual economic output. And it's enormous. I mean, the Northwest, the Puget Sound area is going to continue to be a powerhouse in, aviation and manufacturing. And if we can build some additional support infrastructure around it, I think that's just going to be a real winning combination. And selfishly, we'd love to be a player in that.
Yeah, I think this conversation will kind of kick off some really good things in terms of a robotics alliance for the Northwest. And And I do think that we can engage manufacturing leaders early and earlier in this conversation, so that they can be thinking and planning and seeing a better, brighter future. And like you mentioned, Marco, a more sustainable company, a more competitive company. And I do think that the problems that face manufacturers today are going to be solved because of a community like this. And so I wanted to make it so that, I was hoping that people get to know you and they would feel very comfortable calling you. And so I'm going to be putting your contact information at the bottom of our video here on YouTube. But if people wanted to get a hold of you, I don't know, Marco, is there a recommendation? I don't know if you want to give us an email address or.
Yeah, I mean, my email is marco.micheletti@freshconsulting.com, but you better put that on the bottom because that's just too many letters. And James as well, but they can reach us through the Fresh Consulting website. We actively monitor everything inbound. Please, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on our profile page on Fresh Consulting. And we're rolling out a new website. It's going to show off a lot of our projects and experience across all the different practice areas that we have. But yeah, that's one great way, through camps, if you can list us here. Anyway, we're listening and we're here.
Yeah, and if anyone wanting to reach out, just acknowledges that hey, heard of you through camps, that's going to be a really easy way for us to funnel that response straight to Marco or myself. So yeah, no, we're excited to connect with more of the camps members. I think as the conversation started, we've been working and partnering with some of them over the last several years, and so this is just an extension of all of that great work and all of the future work we're hoping to do.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shout out to a camps legend who is Tom McLaughlin. And I'll tell you, he gets so excited, and he's still a consultant for camps at this point, but he saw robotics early and he knew that it was a very big thing. We've been working on a robotics project this year of creating robotics apprentices and technicians. And Tom has just continued to lead this charge on robotics. And so I know he's going to continue to drive this idea of this Robotics Northwest Alliance that you mentioned. And I know that camps as an innovation community is really going to get on board with this. So I hope that people can feel the excitement that both of you exude about this topic. And if you're a robotics and automation nerd, like as you should be, these are the guys to talk to. I mean, these guys talk your language. They've seen it, they've been there, and they have so much experience. And like you mentioned, James, you guys have connections. You guys know who the players are, where the tools are, the resources. And so I just feel like we're really richly blessed in this area to have you guys here, to have this conversation, to have Fresh Consulting in our backyard where we can have this type of a community effect. So I want to thank both of you for being here today. Any final thoughts before we close up?
I think we'd just like to thank you as well, for you and Tom, for getting camp started, keeping it going, keeping the members excited and stimulated with really interesting topics. I think it's just one final word for me is, robotics and automation doesn't have to be this big daunting topic. There's any number of ways and places to start from, big and small. And we're just happy to help you navigate it wherever you're coming from. So
the sooner we can have the conversation, the better. Like you said, the what if and the planning, that's a great place to start. We thank you. I get really excited. I missed the morning breakfast meetings, monthly meetings at camps, but this is great talking to you, and I really appreciate your support as well, Kirk. Thank you.
Excited. We think this will hopefully foster many more conversations, some by Zoom and some in person. So.
Yeah, and we had some great relationships with some of the camp partners, and those have been fun, and look forward to many more as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll end the video here, and I'll put all the contact information, and we'll look forward to good and better things.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kirk. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Sure.